The Christmas tree has been trimmed, stockings have been hung, the elf is sitting on their shelf, and once again, the internet serves up a fresh batch of hot takes. And frankly, we are just happy to do our part in this debate.
Everyone's doing it, so we will too.
Might as well.
Yeah. Welcome to The Scaries, brought to you by Racer Co. I'm Sky.
And I'm Talitha. We are proudly broadcasting from Treaty 4 territory. In each episode, we tackle alarming, inconceivable, questionable, shocking, and scary statistics relating to, impacting, and intervening with the lives of women and girls worldwide.
You'll hear the scary truth, take away tools and tips, and learn about what you can do about it. And The Scaries is an opportunity to raise awareness, share resources, and use our voices as women and supporters of women to make some real change. So the opinions shared in this podcast are solely our own, so just keep that in mind. And this is for entertainment purposes only. And we may be sharing some content that could be triggering to you, so just listen with caution.
As straight, cisgender, white, able-bodied settler women, we are aware of the privilege that we have, and we want to use this platform to spread awareness about the scary reality that women from around the world face in different life situations.
Why?
Because sometimes nothing is scarier than being a woman. So the first few episodes of The Scary have dropped the very real and very scary statistics and the very real and scary realities that women currently face in the world. But since it's the holiday season, we wanted to have a little bit of fun while still dropping the scaries. Hence why we have a Christmas tree and I'm wearing a hat and we're wearing very festive colors. It's the most wonderful time of the year for some people, allegedly. And Christmas music and holiday music is everywhere right now, in the malls, in the car, on all the socials. Like everyone and their dog is doing a dance to social media on social media to Christmas songs. So whether you love holiday music or not, the lyrics are ingrained in our brains from a very young age. But have you ever really listened to what some of these commercialized holiday songs are about? Today, we will be chatting about the lyrics behind a couple of holiday classics that have sexist undertones and sharing from both sides of the argument as to whether they should be canceled altogether or reclaimed as feminist anthems. And you can be the judge at the end of it.
But before we get into the nitty gritty around these songs that we'll be deconstructing, we have to do a holiday edition of Would You Rather.
The holiday edition.
This time she's on the spot. So,
yes.
Okay, to start us off.
Okay.
Would you rather be the voice behind the most famous Christmas song out there?
Okay.
Or be the person that the song is about?
Oh, 100%. I want to be the voice of it. I want to be the Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
I want to be the Bing Crosby, the Frank Sinatra. Yeah,
even if it was a song that you were like, this is not like,
oh, I don't
not a
care.
good song.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You're still the voice.
Yeah. I feel like that happens like probably a lot of times. People are like, I didn't really think this was going to be popular, but whatever. And then it was like all of a sudden huge. Yeah. I want to be the like Mariah Carey, it's time on like whatever November 1st she starts launching it. 100%.
Love it. I agree. I'm the same way. I love
like, I'm
all about the
for sure.
singing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Would you rather only hear Christmas music all year round or have no Christmas music ever and only like normal songs?
I'm going to say have Christmas music all year round. I just don't know. Like, I know that it can get annoying, but there's also like enough repertoire. And also Christmas music gives me like that certain feeling. Like it's like,
yeah,
you know,
without it, I can't imagine Christmas without Christmas music.
No, exactly. Like
just not
I would risk the 10 months of the year with Christmas music versus like not having Christmas music at Christmas time.
And there's totally enough genres of Christmas music too to like have like a rap Christmas or like a chill, a piano or whatever it is. Like,
absolutely.
Totally. Yeah,
there's enough to go around.
Yeah.
I think that, I need the holiday songs.
Gotta have it. Yeah. Okay, last one. Would you rather only have the original Christmas songs that were written like in the 40s and 50s that we'll be going through today, or have none of those and only have today's modern Christmas songs?
That's hard. I mean, Okay, so I actually spent the entire day today listening to like the old crooners, like
Yeah.
Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and like all those guys singing. And there's just like something so smooth and wonderful about it. So I feel like I'm going to stick with the old ones, although there are some like problematic themes that we will discuss. But I think I'm going to go oldies.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean, there's some good like new ones. Like
I think I'd go like modern, just because there's so many remakes of the songs.
Totally.
And I guess I'm not really attached to the voices as much as I am about like the lyrics. And like the tune, because it's like ingrained in my brain. But, like Rascal Flatts and Justin Bieber and like all the remakes. Michael Bublé, who will go through today, has lots of remakes.
He seems to be the problem,
but he's still like amazing. Such a good voice. So I don't know. I think like I'd go modern.
The Justin Bieber holiday, whatever it's called, Mistletoes, Kissing You.
So good. I was listening to it today.
It's a good one. No, that I mean, and I think that it's also just the terrible part about the would you rather is like I would pick all of them because I just all holiday music is the best.
So good.
Well, with exception.
Exactly. Well, I'm the first to admit that I love Christmas music. I'm listening to it like starting November 1st or probably even October like 30th. Just I'm like, come on, speed up Halloween here.
Let's get through this.
But no, I love it. And there's just something comforting and nostalgic and just totally makes you feel that special cozy feeling. And it's like really a lot of what I love about Christmas is just the feeling of Christmas, right?
Yeah.
But then when you really think about, and I haven't really thought about it until now, and now that my toddlers and stuff are starting to sing it and I'm like listening to the words back, and there's something a little creepy about some of the lyrics when you think of, especially like the Santa, like I see you when you're sleeping and all those things.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a little bit off.
The fact that no one has ever seen him and he knows exactly what you're doing at all times, and he breaks into your house every year.
He eats your food,
checks
on you when you're sleeping.
Like he knows everything. It's just like, it's a creepy thing. And I used to scream bloody murder when my parents used to make me go sit on Santa's lap because I was like, absolutely not. And then we actually took our son to go get pictures with Santa, and same thing. And I was like, I don't know why I'm like making you go through this, all for like the memes of him. And then he was just screaming in the picture, and I was like, this is what we will remember forever.
Yeah.
But
classic.
It is totally creepy. And there's just like a lot of pressure too with him. Like he's like, and I mean, I'm going to do this when my son gets older, but when they're like, I'm going to call Santa and like, I'm going to tell him that.
I've used that. I'm not going to lie. I use that all the time right now because it works. And I know it's not at all the correct parenting things, but
oh man, whatever. You do what you got to do to get through the season. No judgment.
Exactly. So the songs that we're going to be talking today about are really products of the time that they were created. Like I said, they're kind of 40s, 50s, that era. But that doesn't make the fact that a lot of what we're going through will be sexist, capitalist, really ignorant themes, it doesn't make them okay. No. So especially when we keep singing and listening to these all year round for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. And we are, like we said, kind of tone deaf to it now because we just have been singing it for so long. You don't even really think about what we're saying. So because we're numb to it, it's really hard to ignore these songs and kind of like put them out of our brain when we've become ingrained to them. We've grown up listening to them, or that they have memories attached to them. So we're not asking you to stop listening to these songs altogether, just being aware of what's being said, being aware of the ears that are listening to these songs as you play them, and just being a little bit more conscious of that active listening of songs in general, which I'm sure we'll be going through more other types of songs in the future. Stay tuned to the 90s in another episode. But so just consider that the historical context when you're listening to songs is what we're hoping for today.
Yeah, absolutely. So why this topic? Well, the relationship between popular holiday music and the objectification and sexualization of women is complex and multifaceted, aka shout out to the 90s, and is often influenced by cultural norms, obviously, like so what's happening at the time, historical context, and individual interpretations. So music it's poetry, it's what you take of it. So this is just us going through it and presenting the history and all that sort of thing, but it is up to an individual interpretation. So don't come for us. When we refer to sexualization or sexist undertones within these holiday songs, we are referring to the lyrics specifically or the themes that can contribute to the objectification or sexualization of women. So some pieces may contain suggestive or stereotypical portrayals of women, emphasizing physical appearance or romantic pursuits, which can perpetuate gender stereotypes and reinforce certain societal expectations, because all we really want is a boyfriend, right?
Mm-hmm. So every Christmas song,
yeah,
right? Just gotta unwrap that gift.
So it's important to consider the historical context, obviously, as we have these discussions, and the evolution of societal values when we analyze these songs. Some holiday music reflects cultural norms from very different time periods, which is true of the songs that we are going to dissect today. And that what might have been acceptable or even considered entertaining in the past may be viewed differently through a contemporary lens. So oftentimes the objectification and sexualization of women was a joke. So that is something that we'll be looking at and considering as well.
For sure. And I would say in recent years, the more and more like these topics are becoming more, we're aware of them. We talk about them. They're being more discussed. They're not the norm, or we're changing those norms.
Yeah.
We're having more discussions, and we're seeing more changes to these songs, or more remakes that are in the positive direction, which is great to see. So like, and we'll talk about some of the artists that have reimagined some of these classic songs in a positive and sometimes not so positive way. But the fact is we're seeing changes. We're seeing people recognize that this is not okay, which is a great thing. So yeah.
Exactly. Things are shifting and going, to a nicer way.
Yes, totally. So let's review before we get into a couple songs we'll be getting into in depth. Let's go through a couple of the factors that really have led to the perpetuation of these songs, and really the fact that they're still around and we're still singing them and still everywhere, but they have not the best messages.
Yes, totally. So I'll maybe start with a couple and then I'll just pass back to you. Okay. So one of the first factors we have to consider is the time period and the societal norms, as I kind of mentioned previously. So many holiday songs that contain elements of objectification or sexualization of women were released during the mid 20th century. So like the 40s, 50s, 60s, again, what we'll be talking about today. And if you listen to the Barbie episode, so you should listen to the Barbie episode, you'll get a look at what was happening at the time in terms of political and societal shifts. So again, what women were facing at that time and kind of how it makes it even more problematic. We are extremely aware that things were different then, and it's something we're not ignorant of. This era had distinct social norms and gender roles that differed significantly from contemporary perspectives. And honestly, like, thankful that we are moving forward in some way.
100%.
It may be slow and it may be challenging at times, but there is still forward movement. And during this time, certain attitudes towards women, relationships, and societal expectations were reflected in popular culture, including music. The other piece that another factor, that we want to look at is and consider is the evolution of cultural values. So obviously, as societal attitudes and values have evolved, so has the interpretation of these songs. So what was once considered playful or innocuous in earlier times may now be viewed critically due to changing norms and heightened awareness of gender equity and representation.
And some other factors include two more factors we'll go through are just the sheer commercial success and entertainment factor. So a lot of these holiday songs, despite having those elements of objectification and sexualization, were catchy. They were festive. They were fun and upbeat. They were different than the typical Christian, religious Christmas songs that really make up the bulk of the cloud, like their original Christmas songs. So yeah, there was commercial success. The audience were all for them. And because of that feedback, or that acceptance and demand for these types of catchy tunes, they've continued on.
Why? Because sex sells.
Sex sells. Sex sells. It always has. Always will, I guess. So yeah, that's one factor. And then the last factor is just artistic expression and historical context. So artists, a lot of times in these times and still today, create songs as a reflection of the time that they lived in, intending them to be playful and romantic, sometimes pushing the boundaries of the norms of the day, which we'll go through, but not intentionally trying to objectify or sexualize women. That's not their intention, even though it may happen indirectly. So yeah, that's another piece to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with all these factors in mind, these 4 factors we just went through, keep those in your brain. But we're really going to share both sides of the perspective or the, I guess, debate on a couple 2 primary songs, which we'll get into a second. But we really want you to be the judge of what your view is. And we'll share our thoughts at the end of each kind of review. But yeah, let us keep these in mind and let us know what you think at the end.
Yes, please do. As we mentioned, the opinions are always just our own, but we would love to hear yours as well. So let's start out with one of the most widely known and arguably rapey songs, Baby It's Cold Outside. So let me just paint a picture for you, shall I? So who doesn't love a festive holiday tradition? The Christmas tree has been trimmed, stockings have been hung, the elf is sitting on their shelf, and once again, people are debating whether Baby It's Cold Outside is a song about rape and consent. Every December, the internet serves up a fresh batch of hot takes about Frank Loesser's 1944 jazz standard. And frankly, we are just happy to do our part in this debate.
Everyone's doing it, so we will too.
Might as well.
Yeah.
So the vastly different ways people hear the same short song have set off this annual internet battle over its feminist merits. While it's impossible to say for certain when listeners first noticed and paid attention to this kind of back and forth creepiness, the earliest known article on the subject that was published was actually in 2004 by Canada's National Post newspaper. So according to the National Post, the article was meant to be a tongue-in-cheek, throwaway joke poking fun at the political correctness of the time, ending with the demand that all radio stations and malls stop playing this song. The article's points are, ironically, the same as those being argued in earnest now, though the shift didn't happen overnight. So that was 2004 was the first kind of original one. And now, obviously, some almost 20 years later, and we're still talking about it. So now for every think piece that's calling it a date rape anthem, there's a corresponding, oh, come on, take about how oversensitive social justice warriors are killing romance and seduction and taking the song's lyrics out of context.
Let's be honest, there's always those. How many articles or debates that are just oversensitive?
Yeah, snowflakes.
Like, let it go.
Yes.
Everything.
No.
But anyway.
Especially when it comes to, I think, like women's issues.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Or like sex and gender issues too. Yeah. The research on this one was very interesting, with people feeling like super strongly one way on one side of the spectrum, and obviously very strongly on the other side. So as Skye mentioned, I'm going to share a bit of both sides of the argument and then let you be the judge. And I mean, we will be also the judges at the end. But okay, so first about the song and its composer. So Frank Loesser, as I mentioned, originally wrote Baby It's Cold Outside in 1936, 1940, or maybe 1944. The internet had very varying opinions on its original date. But it is confirmed that it was written as a goof for himself and his wife to sing at a housewarming party while their guests were trying to leave. And then they just continued singing it at parties for the next few years. And it was then used in the 1949 musical Neptune's Daughter, which actually won it an Academy Award for the Best Original Song.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually don't know what Neptune's Daughter is about.
I've never seen that.
I know.
I don't even
I've
know
never
what that
heard of
is, but maybe I should watch it. Sounds like a Christmas movie. If it isn't, I'd be surprised. But
yeah, I don't know.
I guess, why is this a Christmas song?
It's actually not considered
it.
Yeah. So it's like considered a Christmas song
Holiday.
because they talked about like weather.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's considered a Christmas song.
Interesting.
But they actually never mention anything about like the stockings hung by
or
like
the season.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Or like, So it's just because it's about being cold outside. Anyways, okay, so first we are going to tackle, that was the history of it. Now we're going to tackle the side for who have called for this song to be removed from airways and outline some of the issues. So when you first hear it, the song seems like a cute, flirty call and response duet between a man and his lady friend who are debating whether she should stay the night. So on the one hand, what would her parents or neighbors think? On the other hand, it's just so cold outside. She didn't wear a hat or anything, I guess. The ending is ambiguous, but it's implied that she decides to stay after all, keeping them both warm on a cold winter's night. So this song has been called out in the past few years, as I mentioned, for its implications of rape culture and how it depicts, or the lack thereof, consent, especially with the rise of the Me Too movement. This argument finds the events of the song troubling, given our modern understanding of how sexual consent and sexual assault work. Regardless of what Lausser intended, it is, in this argument, is a lousy model for a romance that normalizes sexual coercion and date rape. And the date rape is primarily referring to the, like, what's in this drink portion of it.
Fair.
So
and the copious, have another drink. And
yes.
Like all the drinking.
Yeah. A lot of drinking. Yeah. The coercion.
Mm-hmm.
So some look at the lyrics and see a woman trying to leave politely. And if that's the case, it becomes much more obvious why the man's behavior is a problem. Sure, maybe she'll end up staying because the man won't stop bothering her. And it seems easier to just give in at a certain point.
Wow.
Which I guess we all should just do, is just give in at a certain point. But just because she gives in doesn't mean that she really wanted it, or that she'll feel good about it afterwards. And whether or not she enjoys herself, or whether or not she feels violated or ashamed afterwards, the ends of how she feels about it later still don't justify the means of how he got her to stay. So again, like all those coercion kind of.
Exactly.
Have a little bit another drink and whatever.
And just completely ignoring all of her reasons why she can't. Just changing the subject.
But baby, it's cold outside. Yeah. So on the other side of this argument, if we look at the text of the song, the woman gives plenty of indication that she wants to stay the night. So again, this is very interesting.
Plenty of indication.
Yeah. So during the late 1930s, when the song was originally written, good girls, quote unquote, especially young unmarried girls, did not spend the night at a man's house unsupervised. That was an absolute no-no. The song's tension then comes from her desire to stay and society's expectations that she should go. So this argument states that we can see this in the organization of the song. So from stopping by for a visit to then deciding to push the line to stay just a little bit longer to then wanting to spend the entire night, which is really just pushing the bounds of acceptability. Additionally, her bow and this repeated refrain, "But baby, it's cold outside," is allegedly offering her the excuses she needs to stay without guilt. So like if someone asks, she'll just be like, "Oh, but it was just so cold.
Right.
I could not possibly have left." Yes. So
I got there somehow, but couldn't get home.
Got so much colder.
Yeah.
Girlfriend obviously also doesn't live in Saskatchewan, where you just like don't leave in the first place.
Exactly.
So later in the song, she asks him for a comb, and this is assumingly to fix her hair. Why would you need a comb otherwise? And mentions that there's going to be talk tomorrow, which implied that this song is about sex. So the song is about sex, wanting it, having it, maybe having a long night of it by the fire, but it's not a song about rape, says this argument. It's a song about the desires even those good girls have, but weren't supposed to have in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s.
I feel like, how do they know that she desired that? Like in everything that she said. I mean, yeah, clearly I can imagine that would be like a societal norm, but how can we read her mind that, yes, she actually, her words said no, but her brain said yes. Are we in her brain? Like, I don't know. I just can't get on board with that. We knew exactly what she was desiring.
No. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think this is also just like those factors that we have to consider is like those individual interpretations as well. So that is, I mean, maybe she did want it, but maybe also she didn't. So this argument shares that the song should be and generally is understood to be a dialogue between two people who both very much want to get it on, but only one of whom, this in the song's period setting, has the freedom to explicitly say so. So the man's is allowed to have sex.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So there's where we see the sexist piece still.
Yeah, like it still exists.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess whether the song is about rape or not, there still is this like double standard of
100%. It's okay for him to stay out all night and do whatever he wants with the girls, but the women are completely, their reputation's shot if they do that.
And that still exists today.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
yeah.
That's still such a double standard of like women who have multiple sexual partners or who have had like sex with more than one person is like they're a hoe.
Oh, 100%.
And men are like, you are conquering.
You're king.
Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous. Anyways, so this argument goes on to state that what we are hearing is a woman's internal struggle as she determines if she is strong enough to face the public ridicule that will follow when she chooses to defy social norms. So again, it's that like societal, like, I don't want to disappoint my parents and like embarrass everybody because I stayed over at a boy's house.
Mhm.
So regardless of what side of the argument you are on, the song is deeply filthy, of course, by 1949's standards.
Mhm.
And even today, it should never be sung at a holiday school choral concert.
No.
Which is why the video for the Michael Bublé and Idina Menzel version that was released in 2014 featuring kids lip syncing the lyrics.
So weird.
So creepy.
Yes.
We watched it before and it's just so weird. They're like dressed as adults and
in like the 40s or 50s.
Yeah,
like,
and they're like in a
and
hotel
dancing,
kind
waltzing
of, or,
around. Like, it's so weird.
It's just
but
weird.
Like mouthing adult songs.
Yeah.
Like to Michael Bublé and Idina Menzel. Like, it's just.
Yeah. So whether this song is about rape or coercion or just wanting sex, it's still about sex.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, it's still about
exactly. You can't
that.
deny that. So
when children
why
sing
are
it,
we-
it's
exactly.
weird. But anyways, the pro baby it's cold outside of the argument shares that Frank Lauser wrote a feminist leaning anthem that holds up pretty well as a sex positive period piece. They share that the song has a lot to teach us about how society views women's sexuality. And this argument concludes by sharing that if you want to be outraged about what the song is actually about. Again, this double standard in regards to sex that women face and how nothing much has changed.
Okay.
So
I get it now.
Yes.
I get that side. Yeah. So they're both basically not denying it's not sexist, but regardless, it's a sexist song.
yeah.
It's just a matter of like, is it a rape?
Yes.
Or is it sexual assault? Or is it like the sexist undertones and double standards?
Of
or
like,
maybe it's
yeah.
both.
And I mean, yeah, it very well could be both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which interpretation is right? Well, is Baby Cold Outside, as Skye mentioned, too problematic to enjoy with a clear conscience anymore? Or is just our perception of it the real problem? So the answer isn't actually straightforward. And it's also more about just this one Christmas song. The debate gets to the heart of a major culture war over sexual assault, consent, and that beautiful political correctness, quote unquote. These are political correctness in quotes. So one article I read during this research from the publication Vox actually broke down chunks of lyrics and annotated it from both perspectives. So this romantic side of like seeing it as a love song, and the rapey side, seeing it as like sexual coercion, which gave a good indication how things can be interpreted differently from the exact same words. So at a certain point, dissecting and investigating the lyrics of a Christmas song starts to feel a little bit silly, although we love it and we're here for it. But if you like the song, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I get it. You don't need to yell at people on the internet about this. And don't yell at us, please. But here's the thing. Culture and consent matter. So every single day we express who we are and who we want to be through the books we read, the movies we watch, or the tunes we jam to. But here's the kicker. When someone says something that we enjoy isn't cool anymore, we tend to get like all riled up about it. And this is where that complaints about political correctness, quote unquote, can turn into serious grudges and create that like negative space and negative debates online. But the debate over this specific song is really about the deep anxieties our society is facing right now over how to deal with sexual consent, which I thought was like very on point.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yes. So if you touch someone in a sexual way without their consent, you've committed sexual assault, sexual harassment, or rape. Point blank, period. Do not want to hear any arguments of the sort. And those are serious crimes. And they're still not taken as seriously as they should be. Sexual assault and harassment are common, but underreported. And conviction rates for rape are abysmally low. And you should listen to episode 1 for more related stats on those gender-based violence issues, wonderful things. So there are also folks out there who seem to be pretty worried about something pretty rare, which is false accusations of rape. So they're all caught up in this idea that if you could wreck a young man's life. Because of this, when survivors gather the courage to speak up, they still get hit with awful character attacks. And it's like some people side with the accused or just can't wrap their heads around how prevalent sexual assault truly is. It's been a long fight against those ideas that somehow blame the victim when it comes to rape. Despite all the effort over the years, those harmful thoughts still linger today. But one huge win in this battle is how far we've come to understand the absolute necessity of consent during intimacy. And we call it affirmative consent. And by we, I mean like as a society. This is not our
definition.
Not our term. We didn't create it. So affirmative consent. So I'm going to break it down. In a heterosexual context, like the one we were talking about in Baby It's Cold Outside, instead of just telling women to say no means no, the affirmative consent rationale is that men must get that yes means yes. So, and it's on us as a society to understand and practice this principle. So you can't just say like, if there was no response, then that was
exactly.
it.
If there's reasons why, like in Baby It's Cold Outside, continuously why they cannot participate, and there's no explicit YES words coming out of their mouth, then it is not consent.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That is not that affirmative consent that we need. So given the historical and musical context that we talked about at the beginning, we won't be revoking your feminist card if you don't interpret the original Baby It's Cold Outside lyrics as a literal description of date rape. In 1944, affirmative consent wasn't even an option for the woman in the song. Like it did not exist. And so she should have had to protect her reputation by either playing hard to get or not allowing herself to be gotten at all, which again is that double standard. But look, every situation involving intimacy is all about context. It's about the bond between two people, how they vibe together, and what they're saying or not saying to each other. It's about whether both folks are crystal clear on wanting something to happen. Now, making a move or trying to seduce someone isn't automatically assault. Again, don't come for us. But if it's not wanted, then it crosses that line, and you need to maybe do some self-reflection.
Totally.
So, and if this song makes you feel uneasy, that's completely valid, because truth be told, in a slightly different situation, those exact lyrics in Baby It's Cold Outside could have easily turned into a pretty uncomfortable, pushy situation for the woman. And I mean, arguably,
it did.
I think it is.
I think it, well,
yeah,
like
it
was awkward.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear even like listening now when you know what it means.
And when you think about the context. Yeah. And the guy could have just shrugged it off later thinking he did nothing wrong. But here's the thing. The responsibility shouldn't just fall on her. Again, this is a two-way street to consenting adults. Consenting. It shouldn't be on him, only on him as well, to ensure that they're both comfortable. And we're just starting to figure this out as a society and how this plays out in our culture. And so, yeah, that's the Baby It's Cold Outside argument on both sides of it, with some additional like explanation of, regardless of whether you think it's rapey or not, the issues with it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So is it a rapey assault case song, or is it just double standard sexist song?
Yeah. What do you think the verdict is?
I think both.
Yeah.
But the line that gets it for me is "What's in this drink?"
Yeah.
And the fact that she says that tells me that she doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And then that alone tells me that there's not consent. Like that is not consent. Also because she never says, yes, I'm going to stay at the end or anything.
Wait. Yeah.
It's just continuous, like passing over her reasons why she can't stay and disregarding them and changing the subject and basically bulldozing his way into getting what he wants, which we don't know if he did, but sounds like he did. I think it's regardless, making her feel uncomfortable, and she's uncomfortable enough to say like, "What's in this drink? I don't feel safe. What are you doing?" Like, you know? So that to me is like a huge red flag. Yeah. Not cool.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree that like regardless, it's definitely a song about, well, I don't think they intended it to be about this, but like now it's coming across as that still remaining double standard of like women are not allowed to be sexual except for, and then the next song that we're going to talk about, you're going to see that it's still not allowed, but that women aren't allowed to be sexual and like be sexual beings and have sex and want sex and all of those things. And so then when it happens, it's like she has to, even if she wants it, she has to pretend like she doesn't want it. But then even that is like, what? it still sends mixed signals and everything else.
Totally.
So it's like,
it's problematic all the way
Yeah.
around. And it's just even worse now that we know the history of like,
Yeah.
it's like a couple, a husband and wife building this song
Yeah.
and playing it to make sure their guests don't go home. I mean, if I heard that song, I'd be like, let me leave you alone, like get a room. Right. Or maybe like, let me call the police actually.
Yeah.
But
like, I would be like, are you safe?
yeah, exactly. Like,
do
do you
you-
need me to like,
Maybe I should stay.
right.
Like,
So
I
I
don't
don't know,
know.
like the purpose behind it, this goof that they were trying to do, I'm like
Yeah.
not so sure about
Yeah.
that. So anywho,
Anyways, let us know
Mhm.
what you think and feel, and share your own opinions on it. We'd love to hear it.
totally. All right. So without further ado, the next song we will be deconstructing and the last song that we'll be deconstructing today is one that's a little bit less overtly problematic, I would say, than Baby It's Cold Outside. This song, though, still has some interesting views and takes on it for both sides. And that song is Santa Baby.
Ooh.
So I don't know about you, but this song, just because of the way it's sung in like a breathy, like sultry voice, it's not a bad thing. But when I hear like children singing it or other people, like it just seems weird, a little creepy. Like it's just, ugh. So anyway, I just have to say that about this song. First off, any thoughts?
No, I was gonna say, like, I think especially I was like especially when it's kids and they're like, and I can understand. I don't know if they necessarily like know what the baby part is, but, you know, like they think it's like, oh, like ooh, ooh, ah, ah. But when you're like I see children singing it, I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah,
This
and
ick-
just even
the
what
ick.
it represents, like, and we'll get into that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so the history of the song first. So back in 1953, the songwriter Philip Springer wrote the lyrics to Santa Baby in about 10 minutes inside his Manhattan apartment with the help of his partner, Joan Javits. However, he didn't believe the song would be a hit or consider it even being a song people would make them famous for decades to come. Like he had no clue. It was like a 10-minute, let's just see
a little
if this
ditty
sticks kind of thing. Yeah. So he was super skeptical about the music executives even liking the song or taking it all because he really felt that Christmas songs aren't supposed to be sexy. And especially with the woman who sang this song, who had a really sultry voice, and she was a Broadway star, Eartha Kitt. So this was in the Phil was in his late 20s, and he said, like, Eartha Kitt is the sexiest woman in the world. Like, you don't write songs that are sexy or for like sexy women to sing.
Right.
This is how's this gonna work? And the publishers were just like, nope, stick to the music. Let us worry about whether the song is gonna be sacrilegious or not. Because this is back in the 30s, 40s, whenever. What did I say? 50s?
50s. Yeah. 50s.
So 50s when there wasn't a lot of Christmas songs, I imagine, that weren't just like the original Christian Christmas songs, right?
Like Deck the Halls and like
First Noel,
chestnuts.
Silent Night, and like all those songs. Like, so he was like full on scared, or just hadn't been done. So again, nobody had done everything this sexy, and especially with a woman talking about being a mistress, essentially, which is also probably a taboo thing to say.
Oh yeah.
So it's a coyly crass message, and the way it blithely revels in the season's greediness sets it apart from the usual Christmas standards. So again, we're just getting very materialistic in what she's asking for, but everybody loved it. The publishers loved it. It was catchy. It was festive. It was fun. It was a little like naughty and a little risque and spicy. So it's sold. Again, sex sells.
Sex sells. I was gonna say, I feel like that's probably that's why, honestly, everything that gets so popular lately is because it's like it pushes the bounds of like what's acceptable in society.
Yep.
So
exactly. So, and the year it came out, it was the top selling Christmas song of the year.
Oh,
so
make that money, Eartha.
There you go. So some points against the song for why people aren't proud of it or happy about it. So this was crowned the most disliked song in 2022. Don't know why exactly, but it was disliked last year. And a survey from 2019 showed that it was the least loved Christmas song, perhaps because studies show, again, money, materialism to be one of the most uncomfortable topics to talk about. So again, don't like the song for those reasons. And we're still talking about it 70 years later. So people still just don't like it. So what could be offensive about it, though? We talk about materialism, but what's really offensive? So an article states that the singer uses her sexuality to get lavish things like a 54 convertible, a yacht, and money. And Santa's positioned as a sugar daddy type to provide her with what she wants because she's been good this year. Think of all the fun I've missed. Think of all the fellas that I haven't kissed. So
she's been keeping herself for her Santa baby.
Right. So very naughty, very I guess the way it just positions Santa in like the sugar daddy ideal, right? And like cheating in general. So one remake in particular standards that stands out to me though in this situation is the Michael Bublé, another version from him. And he totally disregards Santa Baby and he renames it Santa Buddy and Santa Pally.
It's like Michael Bublé just keeps making things weird at Christmas.
It doesn't really do any changes though. Like, yes, you're not using the words baby and whatever, but it doesn't change any of the offensive pieces or any of like the real meaning of the song. It's just like in different words. I don't know why he continues to perpetuate these problematic songs. I have no idea. I mean, he's got a great voice, but come on. So it's super awkward, the changes that he makes, and he makes them like almost more masculine because he's a man singing it. So he moves things like, what do I have here? So the desired gifts to tickets to sports games instead of decorations.
Because men hate decorations.
Right. Yep. And instead of a ring, he says, I don't mean on the phone. He wants one little thing, cha-ching. I don't mean as a loan. So yeah, he's just again doesn't really do any massive changes or make it any better or any more progressive or of the time. It's just changing a couple words. So yeah, instead of using the gender switch or his gender switch to reduce the gender roles in the song again to make it more progressive, Boulé's song highlights them in a discomfort wanting the girly items. So he just changes it from a light blue convertible to a steel blue convertible.
Right, okay. Because light blue is not
so
masculine.
girly. Yes. So yeah, it's just weird. It's a weird take on it. But on the other hand, in 2018, Miley Cyrus lit up the internet with her headliner or her headline writer called a feminist rewrite of the song. And she debuted on the Tonight Show, and she explained that she was uncomfortable with the Christmas classic original lyrics from 1953. Right. Straight out, of course she would be as a woman, let's be honest. Bublé had no idea.
No.
And so she basically redoes all the gifts and she exchanges them for actual things that she doesn't need, or we'll give you some examples. So she asks, am I saying I'm going to hook up with Santa if he buys me all this stuff? Which is a fair assessment interpretation. She performed the updated version. She asked Santa for men to stop talking over her and grabbing her ass because she could buy her own stuff. So straight up, like actually making a point of like what
a lot of women,
we don't need a bunch of men to buy us stuff or a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
So that's the negatives on the song.
I saw that actually. I remember when it came out and I saw it on every news type thing that I like consume. And it was like, she made this huge headline because of all those things. Like, I think it's Jimmy Fallon and like, I want to say like Mark Ronson or something, but Miley is just like, also just like so confident and like everything else. And so she's like, I don't need any of these things. Like, stop talking over me. Like, I got my own money. I don't need you to buy me these things.
Totally. Yeah. So super good. Definitely recommend checking out.
Yeah.
So again, pros the song. On the other side of the coin, when chatting about that, some people actually believe this is a feminist anthem, which I think was similar to the pros of the other song too. So one article we looked at shared that where most of the Christmas songs from the 50s are steeped in conformity, Eartha Kitt's Santa Baby is wild, erotic, and thoroughly subversive. So while it might on the surface sound like a little ditty about wanting presents from a magical gift-giving, age-defying man, Santa Baby also plays around with the sexual politics of the age. While squeezing the Santa for all he's worth, the lyrics also suggest that the singer refuses to play the housewife, hinting at her sexual desires for other men in lines like, think of all the fun I've missed, think of all the fellas I haven't kissed. So yeah, like she's almost saying like, screw the typical norm of I'm scared, like in the Baby's Cold Outside topic or a debate about I'm scared of being seen like a whore or whatever. I'm just, who cares? Like I'm doing what I do and I don't have to apologize for that.
Yeah.
So,
which I feel like is
good for
commendable.
You. Yeah. For not caring. I mean, we could all have a dose of that and be better off, I think.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, very interesting there. And what's also funny is that the man in question in this, like the Santa baby, isn't really ever given the opportunity to speak for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, he becomes the plaything of the singer's character. And in that sense, she can be regarded as a powerful subversion of the 50s gender stereotypes. So again, she's the one
Right.
really doing most of the talking versus I would feel like the guy does more of the talking in the Baby It's Cold Outside, right?
Yeah.
Or more like talking over.
Yeah. Talking
So,
over. That's that's a very good point.
Right. So the feminist publication Miss Magazine included Santa Baby on its list of the top 10 feminist Christmas songs in 2020. Wow. 2020. Noting that Eartha Kitt was ahead of her time because when it came to sex positivity during the 50s and 60s, embracing her persona as a gold digger who renders men into helpless little boys was her sexual power. So good for her. So the question becomes, is this song a feminist anthem that takes control of our sexuality and power? Or should we rather be blasting Miley's version of it that truly does that, I would say, in her words that she uses?
Yeah.
What do you think? Who can be the judge?
I think I like the last piece that you just said about like, it's like Eartha Kitt's original is embracing her sexual power. I can see the like the validity and like in that, and appreciate the fact that unlike Baby It's Cold Outside, this is so different, and it is so like, I don't care what you think about me and whatever else. However, I mean, and I think it's also like we talked about those factors, like the time and like the historical context and all those things. I would still prefer to blast Miley's version of empowerment.
I hear you. Yeah.
But
honestly, I don't feel offended per se by this song.
No.
It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't think it sets women back in a per se. So yeah, I don't really have any like super strong feelings on this one, but I do like the idea of like, we don't need a man, like doesn't need to be Santa to buy us these things. Like you could do it by yourself. But in this case, it almost feels like she doesn't want to. She's just like, he'll do it for me. Why do I bother?
Yeah. Which also I'm like, get it, girl. Yeah. I mean, like if that's what makes you happy and brings you joy, then like do it. Yeah.
I mean, Santa, he buys everybody's stuff. Why shouldn't you just
get the nice
pile
things
it on your list? So anyway, interesting.
Okay, so as we mentioned, we were going to talk about only those two specific songs, because otherwise I think we would be here for like centuries talking about all these things. So if you do have any other ones, please share them with us and we can, start a conversation about those. But these songs aren't just on the radio. Like they're not just, things that you turn on when you're listening in the car or whatever. We heard them in ads, we hear them in TV and movies and social media, as I mentioned. And more recently, we're actually seeing pop culture poke fun and bring awareness to these sexist undertones.
Yes. So there's actually a few different TV shows and movies that have incorporated these songs or song moments and that almost like poke fun or bring awareness to the fact that they sexualize and objectify women. So one example is a Netflix holiday movie called Love Hard. I believe it's still on Netflix if you want to check it out this season. And it's a recent movie. And so it features the song Baby It's Cold Outside, but it's reimagined with revised lyrics to reflect a more consensual and modern interpretation of the classic song. So in the movie, Nina Dobrev's character refuses to sing the song because of the obvious problematic issues with it. Yeah. So her faux beau in the movie updates the lyrics. And the updated lyrics emphasize mutual agreement and respect between the characters, ensuring that both parties are comfortable and willing to stay together despite the cold weather. Great.
That's nice.
The revised lyrics aim to portray a more balanced and respectful interaction between the characters, aligning with contemporary views on consent and communication in romantic relationships. Another example in the TV show is the TV show Community in their season 3 Christmas episode titled Regional Holiday Music. And in this episode, Annie Edison sings to Jeff Winger a parody about the sexualization of women in holiday songs called Teach Me How to Understand Christmas. So this isn't specifically Baby One More Time. Baby It's Cold Outside, another song for another discussion.
I think it's
not that song. It's like a parody of just all the songs.
Well, I think it's supposed to be like a satirization of like Santa Baby.
Yeah.
And because she's like, she's kind of like, because I literally watched this last night, and she's like Betty Boop type character. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Betty Boop. We should review her.
We should. Yeah. I honestly, actually watching that, I was like, this reminds me of Betty Boop. And then, who is that? We should look into her.
Totally.
Where'd she come from?
Yep. But anyway, some of the lyrics of this like or satire version of Santa Baby are: snowmen are cold or hot. Won't you be my daddy? I'm a silly Christmas baby. Tell me what to deck because I forgot. And finishes with you smotty, me dumb, help Pwetty have fun. Boop boop a doop sex. So yeah, like definitely a Betty Boop just playing dumb kind of don't know what's happening typical. Yeah.
And like in the, again, just because I watched this last night, she like just progressively gets like dumber as the song goes on, and like she's like a woman and then like ages down to almost a baby, and it's very weird. Yeah.
Teach me how to understand Christmas.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very funny.
Yeah. So
that episode is very good. I recommend watching it for everybody. There's lots of songs.
The Community. Check that out. So the lyrics obviously showcase the awareness of over-sexualization and superficiality that they're present in holiday music, specifically around women. And the song challenges the common themes of romance, materialism, gender stereotypes often found in holiday tunes we just discussed. And like, have you ever listened? There's a lot of these songs that are sung by women. Like even Mariah's All I Want for Christmas is basically you, a man. So it's just always women pining for these men or for these things, right? Like, I don't know.
It's never just like, I just want to like have my rights. Right. Like, I just want body autonomy. It's like,
or I just want to enjoy a quiet Christmas for myself and relax. Anyway. Interesting. So yeah, that the song really challenges the common themes of romance and materialism, like I said, and it just makes a point in general about the nature of these themes that we're seeing over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's like funny to laugh at it because if you don't laugh, you cry, as we always say. But yeah, thank you for those examples. I think that using satire and altered lyrics or even just like context within this story to comment on societal issues like the sexualization and objectification of women in holiday songs, and addressing those themes of consumerism and societal pressures and gender expectations during the holiday season is a good way to just like top off the season and again laugh.
It's a good discussion topic table discussion starter at your Christmas dinner.
Start it.
Have you ever thought about that song?
Ask your grandparents, honestly. I would love to hear.
What do you think this is about?
Okay,
so what are we going to do about this? What can we do about this, right? I mean, so above and beyond just making fun, poking fun, and, remaking the songs, what can we as individuals, as civilians do about these songs? And the recommendations are similar to any kind of action or advocacy around any other type of issue. And it boils down to a combination of things that we need to do individually, as a community, just systematic cultural shifts. So here are some things that you can do specifically. The first is just raise awareness and educate others. So again, have that conversation at your Christmas dinner or after Christmas dinner, or whenever. Talk about it. Talk about what you think it means. Talk about with your family, your friends. Bring up the blogs, bring up the articles, share them on your socials. Just encourage the discussion about it. So just more awareness about it. Another one is critical listening. So encourage people to listen critically. And this is all songs, not just Christmas songs, but in general. Be more critical about what you're listening to before, so we don't continue to perpetuate or allow this types of sexualization or objectification of women that still is very prominent in a lot of certain genres of music. We need to just have that critical listening, especially when there's little ears around, and support alternatives. So there's lots of remakes, like we said, some positive, some kind of weird, but try to check the positives or the fun ones that are progressing these issues forward and changing the norms. Lobby for changes. I mean, if you really, really just have a distaste in your mouth or really, really feel awful about hearing these songs, like the ones we chatted about, talk to your radio station, send them letters, talk to them about more inclusive guidelines around what should be played on air, the malls, whatever. You can send those in, and I'm sure your local stations will listen to you. And the last piece is support organizations that support women. And I know a couple. Raise Your Community would be a great one to start, but really continue to support those groups that are changing those norms, fighting against those norms, advocating and advancing for change. So, and just remember that change often occurs gradually. This isn't going to happen overnight, and it requires collective efforts, like I said, from individuals, communities, and the media industry in this specific example. So by actively participating in conversations and promoting positive alternatives, you're contributing to creating a more respectful and inclusive cultural environment for all.
Absolutely. So with that, thank you for joining us today as we confronted these terrifying but real, scary holiday songs impacting women and girls. Stay tuned for more ways to make a positive impact, and together we can make the world a little less scary for women and girls. Our next episode, we're going to be wrapping up 2023, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at RaiseHerCo and at scaries.podcast and on TikTok at RaiseHerCo. And remember that change starts with awareness and action, like we've shared today. And just thank you for being a part of the Scaries community and making this world a little less scary for it to exist as a woman. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.